Tony Dokoupul, who is on the scene there in Chelsea. You were actually there just moments after it happened. Tony, what's the scene now, and what do you know for us?
Well, DeMarco, the scene is remarkably quiet now, which brings up an important point about New Yorkers in general. We've been talking tonight about the potential link to terrorism here, the NYPD saying there is no known link at the moment, but a device exploded in the middle of the street on a busy Saturday night in a major part of Manhattan. You would think a kind of terrorism would take over, but many people are continuing on with their everyday lives. And in fact, as I got here about 9:30, 9:45, only about an hour after the explosion happened, the avenue, 8th Avenue, 9th Avenue, people eating outside, people walking, normal life, utterly untroubled. Some talk about the explosion. Did you feel it? Did you hear it? Have you seen what's going on Twitter? People chatting about it, but it's remarkable the extent to which something like this could happen in a busy, busy part of Manhattan on a Saturday night, and people would be remarkably unshaken by it. And
oh, totally. Yeah, we actually saw that just moments after the 9/11 attacks. You had people who were living in Upper Manhattan and in your places like Harlem and Washington Heights who weren't even fazed pretty much by what had taken place there. But I hear you. Go ahead, Tony. Sorry about that.
Oh, well, you're absolutely right. I mean, New Yorkers are unbelievably resilient. The NYPD is unbelievably prepared for this. And this Saturday night that was interrupted for the past 3 or 4 hours because of these streets being shut down, because of this investigation, for most people, it continues. This is no longer the place to be. The gawkers have moved on, even though the investigation goes on behind me. So a remarkable bounce back from this immediate neighborhood. And yet, at the same time, there is still a very serious investigation unfolding behind me. We've seen numerous NYPD vehicles come through, additional equipment brought in, large vans carrying unknown cargo. From our vantage point, we can see about 150 yards up the block behind us, there's a portable light that the NYPD has set up that gives them, in effect, a daylight over the street so that they can undertake their investigation. Remember, an important detail here is they're not sure where the explosion originated. And right now, they think it's an intentional act. They think they can rule out gas leaks and other infrastructural issues. They have video of it, but they have not been able to pinpoint exactly where it happened. So they've got this device. It's got a tower with a large light on the top, and it is very, very bright. It is, in effect, a daylight effect. And they can carry out their investigation as though it were 12 noon and not 12 midnight. And as I was saying earlier, the investigation is unfolding in multiple stages in multiple areas. I took a walk around the closed-off area here. It's about 5 blocks, the vicinity that is shut down. And you could see the Fire Department of New York, they had a command center set up. The ATF had another command center set up. NYPD had numerous command centers. And then it's a windbreaker contest. You've got the FBI counterterrorism task force here. You've got various specialized portions of the NYPD here. And because of the seriousness of the situation still at this point, you also have heavily armed members of tactical units still out on the street waiting for any additional development, ready for whatever may unfold. And recall also that at 27th and 7th, there is an additional scene where law enforcement is investigating. They have a device there. It's suspicious. They're uncertain. And there are still dog teams going block by block, making their way. Excuse me? Just behind you, there's a whole caravan. We've got a caravan of police clearing off at the moment, going to locations unknown. But there are still dog teams going block by block, expanding their perimeter of safety slowly but surely. But again, I really want to end by just reiterating the fact that here we are 3 or 4 hours after a major explosion on a busy street on a beautiful Saturday night in Manhattan, and most people seem to have just moved on. There are people going to dinner, people going to drinks. It is a terrible, terrible, dangerous situation for the people who are living on this block and for the more than 24 injured. But the larger Manhattan, Chelsea neighborhood is unbowed and unbelievably resilient. So if this was an intentional act, if it was a terrorism act of some kind, it has not worked at this hour, DeMarco.
Yeah, that is so New York for New Yorkers to just move on, get out of my way, let me catch my taxi, my train, whatever. If you can, for our viewers who know nothing about New York, talk a little bit about the Chelsea area and why this could have been more dangerous, a lot worse than what it turned out to be because that area is so heavily populated and heavily traveled.
That's absolutely right, DeMarco. And we've heard some speculation tonight that perhaps whoever planted this device, if it was indeed an intentional act, perhaps they did not intend to cause mass damage. Perhaps it was a kind of prank. That doesn't exactly correspond with this neighborhood and the location of the explosion. Chelsea on a Saturday night, 23rd Street on a Saturday night, is choked with traffic of all kinds. People, cars, vans full of tourists. There's a major park here. There are street vendors. There are restaurants open to 2, 3, 4 in the morning. There are diners. There are hotels here. There are massive apartment buildings. This is one of the most popular and dense parts of Manhattan. And for this to have happened in the middle of a street here on a busy Saturday night, when the weather is beautiful, people are out savoring the final days of summer, it's really, really remarkable that we have no fatalities and evidently only one serious injury. That is very surprising. It's also a challenging crime scene. The police have to go car by car, wheel well by wheel well, trash can by trash can, every nook and cranny on the street to make sure there aren't additional devices placed here, there, anywhere out of sight. And that is why here, 4 or 5 hours after the initial incident, there is still police tape all around me. There's still orange tape which says no entry beyond this point without heavy armor, helmets. However, again, the recovery has been swift. The guy across the street selling falafels is doing a very brisk trade, and many people are not even stopping and popping out their cell phones anymore. They're just moving on with their evening. So if terrorism was in any way the intention this evening, it has not succeeded.